Good morning, Max. How are you?
I've been better.
You've been better?
I have some pain to share. Are we
Is
okay
that
if it's my turn?
Is that a travel issue or not?
No, it's actually not a travel issue.
Then the
It
couch is yours.
Okay, good. It is an investment issue, which I've done a lot of those, and I feel like it gives a bad impression sometimes of, oh, this rich guy who's got all these investment issues.
We need to help wealthy people with taxes and investment issues. So I'm all ears. Tell me how
All
I
right.
can help you today.
And just to clarify, in 1990, I worked for IBM. And I don't remember with a stock purchase or whatever, but at the end of that year, I received a certificate for all of my stock purchase, stock grant, whatever it was. And it was a whopping 9 shares of IBM stock. So my 1 year earning, so just how big of an investor I am here, was 9 shares of IBM stock. And somewhere nearby here, I have the physical share document that I got for these 9 shares. And it had been in a reinvest program, so there were some other shares on the side, but it was time to sell. So I go to the website of the company that manages the shares for IBM. I'm not allowed to do anything online. I have to call. So suddenly
Bad start.
I am back to the 90s. I call and I get a phenomenally bad IVR system. And I'm bouncing around from thing to thing. I'm yelling agent. I'm yelling, representative was their word, it turned out. It was speech recognition. But I went through and I had to listen to instructions for Red Hat employees, even one. I had to listen to the daily closing of the stock, even though that had nothing to do with why I called. Every step along the way, to go through this god-awful IVR, I finally got to the point where it sent me to a person and it let me know that they closed at 5 o'clock East Coast time, which is 2 o'clock my time in California, so I was too late. So I call back the next day and I try again. Heaven forbid, I even tried on the weekend at one point and that went nowhere. I was able to online sell the repurchase stuff, but these 9 shares that I want to sell, I could not get access to any way to sell it. I had to get to a person. So I finally got to the person. This was 4 or 5 calls later with long IVRs every time. Now this is where you'll really love this one. So the first thing was there had been stock splits, and I have to have documentation that says from this company how many shares the 9 shares has become. So I have to make a copy of the certificate, write a letter in their exact format, mail it to them. They will then mail back to me a document that says it's split to this amount. It's actually this many shares. Then I turn around and mail the exact certificate with the proper signatures to them. They will then finally have the stuff so they can sell it, and then they will sell it, and then they will send me a check for the money. So this is literally it. This is Back to the Future. This is living in 19. It's almost as if the process got set up in 1990 and they just never bothered to update any piece of it or anything.
Okay, where to start? You've used a few keywords that gave me goosebumps. I've heard the word check. The word check that should never be used in any sentence since 1995, I guess. Which
the only way they will fund this is through physical checks that they mail. And all the things I mailed to them had to go registered mail or some sort of trackable mail so I could prove that they got it, just in case.
Well, the second word you've used is mail, without an E before, which is very scary to me as well. IVR is another word that gives me goosebumps because I understand it can be done very well, and there are ways to do very good IVRs. Now, let's be realistic. How often does it happen? And I kind of hold you responsible for part of that because you were around when we launched the IVRs many years ago, and you're part of this whole mess. So please take a piece of
You know,
responsibility here.
actually, you're bringing up a point I should highlight here. On some level, this for me was karma. Because when I worked at IBM, I was working on their voice response systems. So it's only fair that I would get voice response hell in return for having unleashed that on the world. I hadn't thought about that element of this. That's a very important point.
All right. Well, then I love hearing you say that because yes, karma always comes biting you back in the ass. So all right. So we got all these pieces. Now, you got a paper certificate from the 90s. So obviously customer experience can be a little bit more complex than if you were buying
Fair enough.
stocks
I
on.
didn't expect it to be go online and sell it live on the spot. Take a picture with your cell phone and that's all you need to do. I expected nothing like that.
Well, I would expect something in between, though. I would obviously, it's an official certificate. Back then, the security systems that we were using were different, so you have to respect those rules. I understand that. However, that being said, there are probably other people who still have certificates lying around. You might find it. You probably even have people who got those kind of shares 30, 40, 50 years ago, and they only realize it the day they move house. Oh, what the hell is that thing? Oh, I have some money that's slipping here. Let's do something about it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it
What
probably
is this?
it's probably not 50% of their customers, but it probably happen quite often that you still have this
Yeah,
process going on around. Plus, you need to have a continuity plan at some point. If you change processes, it's perfect. If you upgrade your strategy, if you upgrade your technology, it's fantastic. But don't forget about customers that use the
yeah.
old
Well,
methods.
and another point here, they can't say it was a security issue that made it so I couldn't sell online because the reinvestment shares I sold through the IVR. So, and that is
Interesting.
less secure than it would have been online. They had no way to accommodate that, but I could do it, again, on my little time travel back to the 90s, I could do it 90s style, which
But
is just really crazy.
here is the thing. That would have been a win-win if they had somewhere on their website, because okay, that's something from the 90s, but let's face it, we're in 2021 today. They could have had a page on their website, a simple page that's called you still own some paper certificates of shares from whatever company. This is a process. 1, 2, 3. This is what's going to happen. Now, I understand, and even though I don't like it, I have to, let's be realistic about it. I understand that you have to mail the physical certificate because that's what you own. You own a physical certificate. At
Right.
least they
Yeah.
didn't ask you to go to the local agencies that's 500 miles from your home to give it. So it's
Yeah.
already not such a bad thing.
And as far as I understand so far, the signatures don't need to be notarized. I'm hoping.
So I understand the thing. The only thing is, why don't you make it easy by giving people the process? Why do you even have to go through an IVR for this kind of thing? Because it could be, hey, you need to mail it. Here is a letter you need to write. Here's a certificate you need to add. Here's an address you're going to use. Here is whatever process there is. I understand it. Now, I'm always feeling very uncomfortable when someone asks me to mail, I mean, physically mail, the only copy I have of an official document.
Right. Right.
Because that means that you put a lot of trust in the delivery company. And like you and I have discussed last week before I got drunk over the story, you should never trust a delivery company, whichever that is, because anything can go wrong. And when that's the only copy you have of an official certificate, especially if it has any financial value, I would feel very
Yeah.
uncomfortable doing that.
Yeah. How do you know that guy isn't going to throw it over the fence and not ring the doorbell? And the check coming back doesn't get thrown over the fence and no doorbell rung. Yeah,
That would not
it's
happen.
fraught with peril.
So, I mean, the whole thing is it's very painful. Did you actually get to buy a new house with those 9 shares you sold?
Almost. I have grandchildren now, so I can get a dollhouse for the girl. So that'll work out well.
All right. Well, you know what I'm thinking is 9 shares of the old days of IBM. I think I would have kept the certificate and frame it somewhere instead of trying to sell it. Now I have no idea what value that is, so I might think about it twice. But I think that's a pretty cool thing to keep around, especially considering the hell of a process you had to go through.
Well, and I'm not through it. I may reserve the right to decide that that's a more cost effective use of that piece of paper than actually selling it.
Well, you no longer have it though.
Well, no, I'm mid process. Again, this is
Okay.
so long. I'm at the point where I sent them the document to find out what I already know, which is how often did it split. It's not hard to look up online how often did the stock split, but I need them to tell me and send me the document that formally states that. So
And I love that. I really love it when companies ask you to prove something that they've done so that they are aware of their own policies. Like, this is so unbelievable when companies now I understand the company you're dealing with is actually dealing with a stock, it's not IBM itself, but
right.
hell, they should know this kind of stuff better than you. They should get that information at hand. Why asking the customer to provide this kind of proof? That just doesn't make any sense. That just shows how hard they want to make business.
And you know what's even worse with this? Okay, I got two thoughts in a row here. First is hard to do business. That is, it really, every step of this has felt like they've done everything they can to make it as hard as possible. The other thing I'm really afraid of is I misunderstood the agent. And I believe what I understood the agent to say was, you need our documentation to prove how many shares it is. But I may have understood, and she may have been saying, if you want us to tell you how many, this is the process to do that. And I may not have had to do this at all, but it really sounded like that was what she said. And I'm not about to go back and demand the call recording to see, but yeah, so it's painful.
We've been complaining about it for the past 10 minutes, and honestly, it's quite well deserved. But I would like this discussion to, I'd like people to get something out of it. So let's try to see what could have been done better. First, you need some self-service, and you need to give people the choice to call you IVR if that's what they want. There are some people who are masochists around here. But
there in the subset of people who own stock from 1990, probably more IVR prone people than the rest of the society.
Well, you never know. You can inherit this kind of stuff, right? That could be the thing
True,
that your
true
dad
enough.
or your grandfather gives you in his will. That's the kind of funny stuff you keep in the
Yeah,
family. You never know.
fair enough.
So, and it doesn't cost that much to have a single web page in your FAQs giving you the process. Honestly, probably cheaper than maintaining an IVR. That's one thing. Second thing is, make it simple for people. Try your own customer experience. Put yourself in your customer's shoes. That never hurts to call your own IVR to see the kind of pain people go through and the kind of bullshit legal speech they have to listen to before even getting to the point where they can engage. And even more than that, sorry, your story is getting me angry. Even more than that, don't get me to listen to a 15 minutes IVR just to tell me, hey, we are open from 9 to 5 on the East
Yeah,
Coast. Just tell me that up front.
right. We've got automated services. Here are our hours with our age. And instead, it was, they acquired Red Hat. So the first thing was, if you work for Red Hat, here's how you go get your service. Anybody else, wait a minute, and we'll give you your menu. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I bad idea. And again, as we've already talked about, it is my karma, and I deserve it every time I get it. But bad IVR is such a touch point for me. That was the first thing that just set me off on all of this.
Well, look, let's look at the bright side. 6 months, a year, 18 months from now, latest, you're going to be a rich man. You're going to buy a castle somewhere in the south of France, and you're going to invite me for some more wine. So let's just look at the long-term plan here.
Yes, my 9 shares of IBM will do that. And yeah, I mean, the good thing so far, the good thing about this is the stock price has gone up since I've been doing this. So if IBM continues to perform well, I will benefit in the long run.
If they perform well on the stock market, and if the other company performs poorly on the CX market, then
yes,
you're
there
good
you
for
go.
a long ride. Well, that was very nice talking to you. I hope you feel much better today.
I do. As always, I appreciate it, and want to do it again next week.
Perfect. That's an appointment.
All
See you
right,
next week, Max.
we'll give you the pain next time.
Bye, Max.
Thanks.